So first, Mr. Bott, I would like to set a footprint in this building by showing a beautiful signal of the goal, peace, justice, and strong institutions, to refresh memories, of course, because after the speech, perhaps after a couple of hours, weeks, you think, what was 16 again? And this is very short. It's, by the way, a P, and I always learn the triple P is people, planet, profit, but luckily we have the fourth P now in the row, and by the way, there is a fifth P, that's partnership. So I will hand over something else after I've said some words. So then it's another official moment. Thank you. So let me try to explain a little bit about these goals, because of course I'm called coordinator, but I sometimes feel like an advocate, explaining it's the unique accomplishment not only in my life, but in the entire international negotiations. 2015 was a year when we adopted these 17 goals, our leaders of government. It was not just a very long process by, let's say, UN bureaucrats. Nothing wrong with them, by the way. I've been one myself, but nevertheless, it's leaders of government and it's the capitals who agreed upon them. That's very important to notice. And if I listened to what Mr. Carnegie was standing for, I thought, oh, there already is a short list, or perhaps the full list of the 17 SDGs, because he was also busy on the root causes and all other elements of the Sustainable Development Goals. And sometimes if I'm at a meeting that's focused on food, that's SDG 2, Mr. Paul Polman, CEO of a big company, he would say everything is organized around food. Now we, of course, together here say, no, everything is organized around peace. And my minister perhaps says, no, it's poverty, and so on and so on. I tend to say they are all right. That's true. They are all interlinked, and that is the second very strong element of these 17 goals. It's not only that leaders of government and CEOs and very strong people have attached themselves, also civil society and, in a moment, the young people amongst us, and they will enter the room in a moment. That's of course not that we do it for the younger, they do it themselves. They will, I guess, because they always tell me, perhaps get out of the way and we will implement the Sustainable Development Goals. So that's the second important element of these 17 goals. A third one is that politicians and CEOs were so courageous to set quantified goals. Normally, I negotiate a lot of texts and returned back to The Hague, and my minister, Bernard Bot, would ask, what did you accomplish, Hugo? And I would say, well, we have a beautiful text. And what is, if you compare it to the text last year, well, it's more or less the same, but we didn't lose ground. So that was, I was already proud of that. But then at a certain moment in the year 2000, politicians decided to adopt the Millennium Development Goals, 8 goals. And that was new language. To adopt a goal in 50 years, we are going to halve poverty, hunger, access to clean water, not half the access, but I mean half the people who not have access. And the goals have been met. That was not in the newspapers, but perhaps others can advise me how to get these beautiful good news in the newspapers, but they were met. So there is no excuse to go for the second 15 years, 2015 to 2030, on these goals. And only we had to add a few goals more, and peace, justice, and strong institutions were missing. And that's this. I think we felt that not only strong institutions of the government, but also on companies, civil society, also that there will fraudulent behavior, criminality, and other elements would be out of the way to reach the other goals. So indeed, it is a cross-cutting goal, very important. Now, a last strong element I want to stress is it's indeed a partnership. It's not just the government. It's much too difficult, to be honest, for the government, either global, national, or local. It's business and finance. Here in this meeting room, the SDG investment was established. And there is a party, a civil society, it's science, universities, education, but also the youth. Very important to have all these stakeholders together, and only working together with all these parties we can achieve the goals. So therefore I'm also very proud that all these initiatives, like the initiative of today, is popping up to build a community within beautiful stones. This beautiful building, there is already an SDG house, by the way, but that's the more general headquarters, you could say, or the mother of SDG houses. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations was in the Netherlands a week ago, Amina Mohammed, and she said, this is wonderful, I'm going to bring this back to New York. Only these type of very remarkable buildings are more difficult to find in New York, I think, than over here in Europe. Nevertheless, we hope that this very good initiative to have an SDG 16 house, not SDG house 16, because I don't have any 15 houses yet, so the 16 should be in the middle. Nevertheless, it's very good to have this house as a community, I hope, also that people can organize events in your building. And it's not only perhaps the Carnegie Foundation, but also a meeting point. And who knows, even that you have expedition and other people who can show and have a tour around the building and explain what has been happening here all over these 100 years. Thank you very much, and this is the moment of my second official deed. That's the flag of SDG 16 that will be out at the front door, but let me hand it over to Mr. Bernard Bot, and we will show it to the audience. Thank you very much. So, yeah. So, is this the right way? No. That's the... So the flag will be out at 2 o'clock, I think, and you can make photographs when you leave the building.
Exactly, on the flag.